specialist and get to know more on these issues. Our guest doctor today is well read, well experienced, and has tackled all these issues on regular day to day basis. Today we have with us Dr. Radha Vembu, who will clarify all our doubts. Welcome, Dr. Radha Vembu.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to have you on Manthan with Saraswati. I'm also excited about the responses which has come in. And I want to thank all my friends for sending me those queries, which I'm going to share with you. And I also want to thank my husband, Mr. Suresh, for all his technical support and motivation, like always. So before we move on, allow me to introduce Dr. Radha to you all, and then we will go on with what she has to say about it. So I would like to introduce Dr. Radha Vembu. Yep, there we go. It's a mini series of Dr. Radha Vembu here. She is MBBS, DGO, DNB of OG, MNAMS, FICS, FIOG, and PhD in reproductive medicine and surgery. Her academic qualification varies a lot. I mean, it'll be like all the alphabets being there. But you need to know what she is. I'm going to read it out for you. She's PhD in reproductive medicine and surgery at Sri Ramachandra University, Chennai. FIOCOG, Fellow of Indian College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. FICS, Fellow of International College of Surgeons. MNAMS, Member of National Academy of Medical Sciences. DNB, Obstetrics and Gynecology. DGO, Obstetric and Gynecology. MBBS from Kempegowda Institute of Medical Services, Bangalore. To go about her experience, she has 23 years of experience in various fields. In 1998, she was a registrar in obstetric and gynecology at St. Martha's Hospital, Bangalore. And 2003, she was assistant professor in obstetrics and gynecology at Sri Ramachandra Medical College and Research Institute, Chennai. 2021, professor and head of the Department of the Reproductive Medicines and Surgery at Sri Ramachandra Medical College and Research Institute, Chennai, India. This is not only thing. We have one more slide to talk about her, and that's Dr. Radha Vembu has, I said 23, now it's, I stand corrected here, and she has 25 years of experience in handling all emergencies in obstetrics and gynecology. She has performed IUI, controlled ovarian stimulation, oocyte retrieval, and embryo transfers. She can perform advanced hysteroscopic and laparoscopic surgeries. She has various publications produced in national and international journals. She is a membership in various societies in India. And there you have her pictures here, in which she is the only doctor who has done her PhD in reproductive studies. So welcome, Dr. Radha. I think without much ado, I would like to, give the stage to you, and we would like to hear from you, Dr. Radha.
Good evening, everyone. I thank Mrs. Saraswati, Manthan with Saraswati, the podcast and the live in the Facebook, for giving me this opportunity to share my opinion and to clear some of the doubts of the participants. Today, I would like to cover a few of the important complaints, rather the situations which a woman faces in our day-to-day practice. So I would like to project this with a PowerPoint presentation, for which I'll be talking over a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just telling about the various phases of the cycle of a woman. We may be in various stages. Most of the participants, I'm sure they will be in one of these stages. We start our life as a young child, very happy, without knowing what is the world. And then we went to enter into the adolescent stage, then get prepared for the wedding, then a child, and then the perimenopause and menopause. So we will see what are the problems, common problems, which we see in these age groups. The first and the foremost is what problem we have in the adolescent age group. Either they don't attain menarche or they attain menarche late. In simple terms, if I say menarche, it is the onset of first menstrual period in a girl's life. So the next problem, what we see after she attains menarche, is they can have irregular periods. They can have pain during their periods. And some of them, they put on a lot of weight during their adolescent period, and they lead on to obesity. They start developing acne, what we call it as pimples and excessive abnormal hair growth. This is the most common scenario which we see in our day-to-day gynae practice. So we will be covering some of these questions during the question session. But how do we manage these patients? First is wait and watch, because many of the mothers are not prepared that their girl has attained menarche. And if they have any of these problems, they get panic. So do not panic. And if the problems persist, say if she has irregular periods, even after 2 years, you consult a doctor, and there are certain medications and investigations to be done. So this is a condition which can be treated. So need not get panic. If she is putting on a lot of weight, then lifestyle modification, which we'll be discussing later. And of course, she has to be given a lot of health education about what is this adolescent period, what is this menarche, how her periods are going to be, and about the hygiene. Next important topic in the adolescent age group, which we all should think about, is something about the HPV vaccine. So if you are in a metropolitan city, the pediatrician or a clinician will tell them about this vaccine. But I just wanted to put this in the forum because I know many of them will be having their children or grandchildren in this age group. So HPV vaccine is very, very important for the adolescent. It starts from 9 to 10 years of age. They can start vaccinating because it is going to prevent the further development of cervical cancer. So it is given in 2 doses in the gap of 5 months. If she has already crossed 15 years, then they can go for 3 doses. Between the first and second dose, a gap of 4 weeks. And between the second and the third dose, a gap of 5 months. So there are various vaccines available. Commonest is Gardasil and Cervarix, which is available. So you can consult your gynecologist or a pediatrician, and they can get the shot of the vaccine. Next, we go to the reproductive age group. The many women, they come to the OP, main complaint is irregular periods. Some of them, they present with white discharge. They get very panicky because either they must have got the information from Dr. Google saying white discharge is abnormal. So one thing they should know that white discharge is common in a woman if there is associated foul smell, itching, or mixed with blood. That is something alarming. Okay, then the next common thing is the premenstrual syndrome. And of course, many of them, they come for fertility evaluation. Infertility is the commonest one nowadays because of the changing lifestyle. They can also develop tumors in this age group, and obesity and development of pimples, excessive abnormal hair growth. So what should we do? In the previous situation, they said, don't panic. And here what they do, they take self-medication over the counter. So don't do that. Consult a gynecologist. Do not neglect these because they may lead on to some complications in the later stage and they need proper evaluation. Of course, there can be some advice about the lifestyle modification and some of the diseases can be screened. So many of them, they get this premenstrual syndrome. They get panic. They think something is happening. It disturbs their day-to-day life. So many of them can have headache. They can have bloating sensation, abdominal discomfort. They can have abnormal bowel movements like constipation. Some can have diarrhea, nausea, vomiting. And most of them, they can have mood swings, irritability, anxiety, depression. So there is a remedy. Some of them may think, oh, should I take medicine? Maybe first is a lifestyle modification. Just try to have a good sleep, good exercise because it elevates the mood, reduce excess salt because it can cause fluid retention and they feel the bloating sensation, excess sugar intake because it adds on to the increased weight and obesity. And in this era, many of them have the habit of smoking and alcohol. They have to avoid that, and even excess caffeine like coffee should be avoided. Now, another important topic which we see in our day-to-day practice nowadays, it is increasing, is infertility. So before we go into some details, we should know that infertility is not a problem with the women alone. It is a problem of the couple. So they have to be evaluated together. That is very, very important because many of the women come to the OP only with their mother-in-law saying this woman has a problem and my son is normal. That is not so. So infertility evaluation includes a couple. So there can be problem in the brain. It can be in the hypothalamus, pituitary, or in the axis where there is a lot of hormones, where there is hormonal disturbances. They can have problem. They can have problem in the uterus like a fibroid or any other growth. They can have problems in the tubes, in the ovaries. The tubes might be blocked. So, and of course, the sperm factor also. So the semen of the male partner also might be a contributing factor. So many of them have a doubt. When should I consult a gynecologist for fertility evaluation? If they are young, less than 35 years, they don't have any problem and they're not able to conceive within 12 months, they should see a gynecologist for evaluation. It is not to start the treatment, it is for evaluation to find out is there any problem. If the woman has irregular periods, better they go early. If she is already 35 years, they can, and she's married for 6 months, better she sees a gynecologist. And if she is nearing 40, they have to go immediately because it's the biological clock which is ticking in the women. And if they are married for a longer duration and they have not conceived, if there is any previous pelvic surgeries, many of them, they might have undergone a lab surgery for an ovarian cyst. So they have to consult a gynecologist without wasting much time. And in this era, many of them have taken cancer treatment in their childhood or in the young adolescents. So they also have to consult a gynecologist earlier. So now in our Indian scenario, we are seeing 1 in 6 couples are affected with infertility. So what are we doing for them? So we just evaluate them. And if they are not ovulating, that is, if the egg development is not there, we are giving them medicines and we are doing what is called the follicular study. So the moment they say scan, they get annoyed. It is not so. We are just monitoring the development of the egg and then we are planning. If there is some associated factor like a male factor, then we may do an IUI where the semen sample is processed and is injected into the uterine cavity. So when should they go for IVF? Many of them are familiar with the word test tube baby. That is nothing but an IVF. So when they go, when the couple, like they are in advanced age, more than 35 years, tubes, there is some problem, they have decreased number of eggs. And if they have multiple repeated abortions and there is some genetic problem, you want to rule out if there is any problem, they can do an embryo biopsy. And of course, other pathologies in the pelvis, most common, many of them have heard about this endometriosis. And if the male have less number of sperms, then they have to go for an IVF and ICSI. Just I wanted to show you what is this, because many of them, they get scared when they hear the word test tube baby. So what we are doing in this situation, we are giving them some medications and the drugs, that is the daily injections, so that in the ovary, there are multiple follicles which are developing. These are the follicles with the egg inside. So we are retrieving the egg with the ultrasound guidance. This is the needle which we pass and we are retrieving the eggs. That is called a ovum pickup. So this is what we do, how we collect the egg under anesthesia. So the next thing, after we have got the egg, what should we do? I told about IVF. So if there is male factor is normal, we keep the egg and the sperms in a petri dish and allow for fertilization. So that is called IVF. So some in this present generation, they have problem with the sperms. So when that condition, we take one sperm and inject into an egg. So this procedure is called ICSI. So here the sperm is injected into the egg, and then the next process of fertilization happens. So how does it happen? So this is an advanced method where you can see how the egg is fertilized, and then how it is forming an embryo. This is called time-lapse imaging. Here you can see that it is already fertilized and it has started multiplying. Now it has become 2 cell, and the next it is becoming a 4 cell, 8 cell. Like that, we can wait up to 5 days till the egg develops, and the 5th day we call it as a blastocyst. Beyond this, we cannot keep the embryos outside, and after that, we transfer into the uterus of the female partner. So this is how the egg is developing, and this is the day 3 embryo, how it is. And now it is becoming a day 4, and the day 5, there is a cystic cavity which is developing. That is a fully developed embryo or a day 5 embryo. And this is the stage when we are going to transfer into the uterus. So these are the embryos of the day 3 or day 5, which we are going to transfer to the uterus. So how are we doing this procedure? Many of them might have undergone this procedure. They must have heard it. We are doing this under ultrasound guidance. This is the uterus, and you can see a catheter which is loaded with those embryos. We transfer 2 or 3 embryos inside the uterine cavity. So this is something in a nutshell, what is IVF and what is ICSI, or what we call it commonly as a test tube baby. And after this, if there is pregnancy, it is going to be like any other normal pregnancy. Okay, now after this reproductive age group, we are going into the perimenopausal age group, where they come to us with irregular periods, cancer. They can have menopausal symptoms. Many of them, they are not aware that they have these menopausal symptoms. They can have the hot flushes, they can have dryness, fatigue, they can have urinary symptoms like leak, urgency, they can have mood swings and sleep disturbances. So these are something which is related to the hormonal changes around the time of menopause. So they have to consult a gynecologist. They should not neglect. They need proper evaluation, just a lifestyle correction with the diet and some form of exercise, and changing their mood so that there can be mood elevation and they can go on. And of course, they have to be screened for various diseases like malignancy, and not to forget about the calcium supplementation. So when should they meet the doctor? When they have abnormal vaginal bleeding, when they have a foul smelling or a itching by white discharge, they have pain during intercourse, pain while passing urine, or they have bleeding in between the periods, or if they have a lump in the breast on self-examination. So these are some of the warning symptoms when they should meet a doctor. So just a few words about the screening. I already told about the HPV vaccine, but still, even if they are vaccinated, they should be screened. The very important thing, when you meet a gynecologist, they do a pap smear. No need to get panic. It is just a screening test to rule out that there are any pre-malignant changes, or they are at risk of developing cervical cancer. So this should start from the age of 21, and from 30 to 65 years, they have to do it every 3 years or every 5 years if they are going for a HPV testing, which is done in some of the centers. So when they can stop, and they have reached beyond 65 years and previous pap smears are normal and they did not have any cervical problem previously, then only they can stop. So when the doctor is asking them to come for pap smear, these are certain precautions they have to take. They should not use any vaginal medications and no dosing and so on. The next thing is about the breast cancer screening. So monthly self-examination, once they have crossed 30 years, it is very, very important. And once they have crossed 40 years, they can have a mammogram. And after that, depending on the risk factors or if there is a family history, they can go for annual or once in 2 years a mammographic examination. And of course, when they have reached around the time of menopause, definitely one transvaginal scan is very important, because ovarian cancer, they do not present with any symptoms. They are detected only in the advanced stages. So that can be picked up by a transvaginal scan. So if you're around 45, better have one ultrasound to rule out if there is any problem. If there is any history of fractures or osteoporosis, then you go for a DEXA scan. Hope I have clarified a few of these things. And some of the health tips are to go for regular screening. They should have a balanced diet, exercise, good sleep, and avoid smoking, alcohol, avoid excess of salt and sugar. So I have just given just a few introductory points. If there are any questions, I would like to answer those questions.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Radha, for this wonderful explanation. I think the viewers who are watching us, I forgot to mention that Dr. Radha is IVF specialist or the test tube baby specialist. And we saw the amazing videos, and I myself was taken. I got so interested into it. I never knew that your lab looked something like this, Dr. Radha. And we are so proud to have you in the session. And you have beautifully explained what is menarche. And I think for many of us, I was not aware of it, but the pediatrician dose is available to prevent cervical cancer for the young girls, which is a news to me. And I'm sure maybe I'm a little lagging behind, but our viewers also must have got a view into this. And then you spoke about the reproductive age and the problems which comes with the reproductive age. And you said no self-medication. Please, ladies and gentlemen, and ladies who are watching us, don't take any self-medication. Whatever the issue is, please consult your gynecologist. And then it was very lovely to see the infertility, the way you took over it. And you talked so beautifully about IVF and the ICI and the ovum pickup, which was so mesmerizing to see how the miracle happens in a lady's womb. And you doctors are behind it to make it happen for people who suffer who don't have a baby. Well, that was beautifully done. So I do have a lot of questions which has come up and which I'll be taking very soon. But before that, I just want to ask you, when you are looking into all these problems, which one as an individual, we feel that, oh my God, I suffer from this, I suffer from this. But when you are into it day in and out of it, how does your day look like? Like, how do you share your thoughts on the common problems which you see in your practice? Like, briefly, so that we can go on to the question answers, but I just briefly want to know that, like how do you tackle it, and how is the day for you?
Yeah, any day it's going to be a busy day from morning till night. So we start our OP morning by 8 o'clock, and we see all varieties of cases. Now, for the last 6 to 7 years, I'm doing only ART practice. So I'm not a very busy obstetrician, but still I deal with all high-risk pregnancies. That is all the IVF pregnancies with a lot of complications, and people who come to us beyond 35 years are handled outside with all problems. So I'm not seeing any normal cases as of now, maybe because it's a tertiary care center. So you get a lot of stress in our day-to-day activities. Overall, the day will be very busy. We cannot predict the day will be cool from morning till evening. It goes on like any other branch, but we are always on our toes.
Okay, that's wonderful to see a busy doctor sparing some time with us. So without much ado, we are hitting the question answer session, which many of my friends have shared. So first of all, like you said, we are grouping it into 2-3 sections. And I would like to address the adolescent problems, which is from the menarche to the age of 19. So the first question which has come to me is, many young girls have irregular periods after attending menarche. That is the first period. Should irregular periods be of any concern, and why not?
Okay, now if I'm saying in adolescent, I'm not talking about the reproductive age group. This is the adolescent. When they attain menarche, in my slide, I said that there is something called the brain is controlling everything. Yeah. So that axis of hypothalamus, pituitary, and the ovarian axis is not mature. So there is not enough, regular ovulation. So they tend to have irregular periods for a couple of, say, it can go up to 2 years. If they have irregular periods up to 2 years, that is normal. Beyond 2 years, if it is irregular, then they definitely need to be evaluated, because they may be at risk for developing polycystic ovarian disease, which we'll be talking about. Or there can be some hormonal disturbances like a thyroid problem. So, and if there is a family history, like a mother is having a PCOD, then probably she is at risk. So these are the individuals, if they have irregular periods, better they meet the gynecologist.
So it is a case of concern. So they should, if it is really regular for a very long period, then they should consult.
Yes. See, after menarche, if they 2 or 3 cycles they may get after 2 months, after 6 months, that is normal. But they go to a medical shop over the counter, buy some medicines and give. Don't do that. You should not disturb the axis. Let it get set right. You can wait up to 2 years. And after that also it is persisting, then it requires treatment.
Okay, thank you, doctor. My second question is, I have two young girls aged 15 years and 17 years. 17-year-old daughter gets regular cycles. However, last 2 years, it is very painful for the first 3 days. She's not able to attend her class. Does she require any interventions? Will these symptoms worsen as they grow? I'm worried. Can you please guide? This is a question from the mother. So, doctor, your opinion on that?
Yeah, see, I said irregular cycles, and because one thing you should remember, any cycle where there is ovulation, they will have pain. But all painful cycles cannot be taken as normal. That is one common mistake which many other mothers do. So if the cycles are regular and it is very painful and it is disturbing her day-to-day activities, she is not able to attend the school, that is something which is a warning sign of a underlying pathology. So they have to meet a doctor. So they will do a basic ultrasound. It can be an abdominal ultrasound because she is unmarried. There can be an underlying disease, what we call as endometriosis, which is very painful. So if it is left at this stage, it can progress. And it is a disease, even though it is a benign condition, it starts increasing in size and all the bowel loops, everything, they get adherent. So, and later on in her reproductive life, they can go in for infertility. So at this age, she is having a concern. It is definitely to be thought of. She should go visit the gynecologist and have an ultrasound to check whether there is any other problem like an endometriosis or a fibroid, or there can be any other problem other than the uterus. It can be even in a bowel. So better she goes to a doctor.
So I hope the parents take note of this and they follow what you have said. There could be conditions like what you have mentioned, and it's better to visit a gynecologist and not to take self-medication or the medicine over the counter, right? So the next question which has come to me is also regarding irregular periods, but I think the mother has some other issues. So I'm just reading up the question for you. I have a 16-year-old teenager. She is having irregular periods like the previous one. I have visited a few gynecologists. So the earlier one did not, I think probably this one did, but the issue is not solved. Is she having an hormonal issue? I'm a bit worried. So your answer will be?
Yeah, she is 16 years. I presume that she has attained menarche more than 2 years back. And if she is having irregular cycles, she has gone to a gynecologist. One thing which a mother feels when a doctor says it is normal, you wait for some time, they're not happy. Probably that might be the reason why she has gone to many doctors. So one thing which they have to say is they have to check the BMI. If the girl is having irregular periods and she is obese or putting on a lot of weight, and she started developing pimples, and she is also having excessive hair growth, abnormal hair growth, what we don't expect in a female, like in the chin or in the abdomen, in the hands. So that is an alarming sign that she is having some hormonal imbalance and she is at risk of developing polycystic ovarian syndrome. So in these cases, it is not a condition which can be given a medication for a couple of days and left. It has got a long-term sequelae, as one of the things which I said, they have difficulty in conceiving. And if they are going to be beyond 35 years or much earlier, they develop problems like diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases. They can also develop, suppose they don't get the regular periods, they don't take medications to get regular periods. Say they don't get the periods for 6 months, 1 year, like that. Unopposed action of these hormones, they are at risk of developing uterine cancer later. So if she is having irregular periods with increased weight or anything, better she goes, meets the doctor. They are going to do an ultrasound and a scan to find out whether there is any features of, polycystic ovaries. They will do a thyroid and a prolactin level assay. So these are some of the basic tests which they will do. and then they will give some medication so that she menstruates at least once in 6 weeks to 2 months.
Okay.
They should not have a prolonged period of amenorrhea, what do you call it, as no periods. They should not have that because it is very harmful. They have long-term sequelae. That is one thing which a mother should understand.
So if you want to sum up this answer in just 2-3 lines, so what kind of
because she is irregular, she is not satisfied, then probably she needs to go have a checkup with the doctor, get an ultrasound and the hormonal investigations. If there is some thyroid problem, they can give her medications. Otherwise, they give her tablets so that she gets her periods at least once in 2 months.
Okay, that's. I hope my friend who has requested for the answer here is clear with what she has, she has asked for. Okay, now there's one question, doctor, because many of the girls, young girls, they are using, these days we have various options during periods. We use various kind of, we use pads, menstrual cups, tampons. So what do you, as a gynecologist, what is your advice and what is your preference of pads or menstrual cups or tampons for the girls who have just started off with the periods?
See, it is actually the preference of the girl, if I have to say, and also the availability of these products in the area where they stay.
Okay.
So each one has their own advantages and disadvantages. Some of them, they are comfortable with the pads. That can, long run, they can have some skin rashes. If the hygiene is not maintained properly, they can develop these fungal infections. That is one thing. Otherwise, some may find it difficult to dispose. That might be some other issues. With the cup and tampons, some of them are very comfortable because especially the cups, it is reusable ones. And it can be kept for a longer period, so there is not much of staining, so the patient, the girl is comfortable. But with both of these, if the girl is not well educated or not trained about the hygiene, because I said it is about reusable thing. If it is not done, or if they keep it and they forget it, they are at risk of developing the infection. And some cases, they have developed what we call it as toxic shock syndrome. So they have forgotten that they have kept this cup or a tampon. That is one thing. And a woman who is having an intrauterine device like a copper T, so every time they are placing that, there are chances of getting misplaced. That is one thing. And when they are using some manipulations, they are at developing urinary tract infections. So it is just the priority of the patients and their comfort. There's nothing like you have to use this or not. It is individual.
And also the sanitary and the hygiene condition, like
yes, so, that is also there.
Whatever you're using, girls and girls, whatever you're using, use it as per the doctor has said just now. But say to it that you have your cleanliness and your hygiene during these times, so that you stay protected and you don't develop any irreversible, disease or something, infection because of that, right, doc? Okay. My next question is, my daughter is 9 years old now. She has taken all vaccine as per the advice of a pediatrician. I think she's referring to the vaccine which you had mentioned in your PowerPoint presentation. The last visit, doctor told me about a vaccine to prevent cervical cancer in future. I'm curious to know more. I'm curious to know more about this.
Yeah, as I've already told in my presentation, this is a vaccine which is being introduced. Initially, they were saying there's some problem, but it is recommended. So any of you have a child who is crossed 9 years, or your grandchild who has crossed 9 years, it is advisable to take this, because we know clear-cut, many studies have shown that cervical cancer, one of the important causes, this HPV infection. So this is going to prevent. So it is one of the preventive strategy. So she can meet a doctor, even the pediatrician or a gynecologist, and they administer the vaccine as I have told. Because she's in the right age, for her 2 doses are enough. If she crosses 15 years, then probably she requires 3 doses. Can't hear you. You're muted. No.
We have some questions in the chat box, which I'll just take up after this one question, with which we'll conclude our adolescent section. So I'm a 50-year-old. Don't get me wrong. This is a question which is coming for the adolescents only. So I'm 50 years old. My concern is that for the younger generation Why do they tend to have hormonal issues? What has to be done to avoid this at this young age? Please guide.
Okay, at a younger age, very important. Probably she must be a grandmother or a mother who must have seen her child. Nowadays, the
You're not being heard. Can you repeat the
so
answer
that
again?
can add on to obesity.
Uh, Doctor, we couldn't hear
Hello?
you. You just answer.
Now is it audible?
Yeah, now it's audible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So the very important reason for all this is the lifestyle. A young girl of the previous generation and this generation, if you compare, they prefer to have a junk food, sit in the same place and eat, not on time, and late night movies. So sleep pattern is disturbed. So all this is adding on to the change of the, every time I'm saying about the lifestyle modification means this, because of our abnormal lifestyle pattern, they are all contributing for obesity. So that is adding on to all these hormonal disturbances. So they go in for a thyroid problem, and long run they can go in for diabetes. And all these are one of the reasons for the abnormal the menstrual problems. And the other problems are in this generation, many of the young girls, they take the habits of smoking and alcohol. That is very common nowadays in our clinical practice. So we routinely ask these girls also, not the boys. The girls are also becoming like that. So that is going to add on to it. And of course, I've told you about the young generation. Many of them are the IT sector, working in the shifts. So the sleep pattern, their diet is all havoc. So they all add on to this. So if it is not curtailed in time, it can add on and worsen the situation.
So in a nutshell, we can say that once the lifestyle change happens, you follow your diet, you follow your nutritious diet, nutritious meal, sleep, plus your other good habits inculcated, we can control this, right? So, Doctor, we are moving
Yes.
on to we have these questions in the chat box which we'll be taking up because I feel that they are going to come up in this session soon. So let me just read out one, Doctor, if you can answer this. I think this is what we are going to take up in the session just now after this. So one question is on PCOD from Sujata. What is the treatment for PCOD? What might be the complication for a person diagnosed with PCOD?
See, treatment for PCOD depends on what you want. Suppose you are an adolescent, you want only regular cycles. So for that, probably, as I've told you, we can give some hormonal tablets which can, so that you get regular periods. Suppose you are the reproductive age group, you are keen to have a baby, then the treatment is different. So we are going to give some medications. What is the main problem in this PCOD is they don't ovulate. Every month the egg does not develop. So they have irregular periods. So indirectly it leads on to infertility. So if you are keen to have a baby, then we give some medications to stimulate the ovary so that they can develop the eggs. Now, suppose she does not want a baby, she just wants a regular periods, then probably we give them the birth control pills. So it is not only these medications, we have to look into various other hormonal disturbances which are happening in them. Say if there is a thyroid problem, we give them medications for thyroid, or there is another condition where the prolactin levels are high. So that also can cause. So we have to identify if there is any hormonal disturbance and treat accordingly. More than the medicine, it is the lifestyle change. They have to reduce the weight and exercise, and probably the advice which is given by a gynecologist, if they are following in the long run. So they have to break the vicious circle only by reducing the weight. So it is to be individualized. It cannot be like for a fever, this paracetamol. It is not like that. So what is the situation? What is her age? What is her requirement? So the treatment depends on that.
There's another
You're muted.
question,
Oh.
There's another question which has come up. It says from Suma, good evening, doctor. I have been suffering from migraine for past 25 years. I was told that it would stop after menopause. I am now 57 years old and I have reached menopause. 3 years back, but the migraine continues to bother me every week for a few days. So could you please suggest some remedy? Thank you.
Okay, I think you have attained menopause 3 years back.
Yes.
Okay. See, normally it is unusual to have headache after menopause, but some of them they tend to have this hormonal disturbance which continues for a couple of months or a year or so. So it is just remedial measures will be just a change in the lifestyle pattern. Like you go for a low exercises which can elevate the mood, and you can avoid probably this say some stressful conditions like anxiety, all that they can precipitate. So it is just basically a lifestyle change. You can avoid, as I have told in my presentation, excess of this caffeine, all that. If you can avoid and have a sound sleep, that will help. Beyond this, if it is still not tolerable, that's the vasomotor symptoms. If they are associated, probably you may be a candidate for hormone replacement therapy if there is any vasomotor symptoms associated. That cannot be taken over the counter. You have to be examined by a gynecologist, see for the lipid profile. There are so many other parameters to be checked, and then only medicines can be given. In spite of this, if there is any other problems have to be ruled out. The headache can be due to various other reasons. Simple, maybe an ophthalmological, eye problem, or there can be some problem in the brain. So better have a thorough checkup. There can be even sinusitis also. So all these other factors have to be ruled out before you label it as a migraine which is related to menopause.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. And there's one more question on the chat box. Whether the HPV vaccine can be taken in the late 20s?
Yeah, I said after 15 years you can take, but you require 3 doses. So the idea of giving this vaccine in the childhood is before they become sexually active. That is the time when they are getting exposed to this infection. So they should have some form of antibodies circulating in the system. There is no harm if they are taking at 20, but still before they become sexually active, they can take this vaccine, but they require 3 doses.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. So moving on to a question and answer session, which has been posted to us earlier. So this is about the reproductive age group. After the age of 30, most of the element we hear is related to hormone. How to understand it from a common woman's perspective? I want to take precautions and be healthy.
See, you have to take precautions, but at the same time, there is something called the genetic component, the strong family history. Say, for example, the most common hormonal disturbance which we are talking about was the polycystic ovaries. So in those cases, it is not only the ultrasound. Some of them, they come with the report saying ultrasound showing PCO. It is not that way of diagnosis. They will have some irregular periods. They can have features of increased androgen levels like acne, that is the pimples, or excessive hair growth. So these are some of the things. Along with that, there is an ultrasound feature. Probably then they diagnose it as a polycystic ovarian disease. So this is one of the common situation which we see in these women more than 30 years. They say previously I was regular. Once I got married, my periods have become irregular. So this is just the hormonal disturbances which can happen. The other common scenario situation, as I've already told you, is the thyroid problem. So they can develop hypothyroidism. So these are some of the things. And the other endocrine problem is the diabetes. So if you want to stay healthy, you have to follow the same mantra of lifestyle change, have to have good exercise, a diet which is well balanced. If I say well balanced, that should be more of high fiber diet, healthy fat, complex carbohydrates, anything which is white to be avoided. Say sugar, refined flour, all those things are not good for health. So I say complex carbohydrates, whole grams, and the fresh fruits and vegetables. And if you're a non-vegetarian, probably a lean meat. So these are some of the things they can be added in the diet. Regular aerobic and anaerobic exercise, maintain the BMI adequately, not to be overweight or put on weight and become obese. So if you have to prevent these conditions, probably your lifestyle is the only one. And of course, you're nearing 40. Probably if your diet is not adequate, you may require calcium supplements.
Do we have any parameters to assess this premenstrual syndrome or the PMS?
See, there is nothing like a parameters to say. As I've already told you, there can be some of the symptoms like anxiety, mood, depression, changes, and some of them they can have bloated feeling, all those symptoms which I had projected. So every time if they are developing these symptoms in a particular time period over the last 3 cycles, which is related to periods, then we can say that it is due to premenstrual syndrome. Sometimes they can happen haphazardly. That cannot be taken as premenstrual syndrome. It can be due to various other causes. So it appears in a particular time of the periods. And once the period starts, it settles down and it is not there for a couple of weeks after that. Then only we can say that is how we take it as the premenstrual syndrome. There's nothing like there are some parameters or some criteria to say you have premenstrual syndrome.
Okay. We have one question in the chat box here. A few ones which I would like to take it for you, and if you can answer them. I'm going through menopausal state. This is Sunita Matankar. I'm going through menopausal stage, not any complication. Should I visit a gynecologist?
I just want to know what is your age?
She is 50 plus, 52.
Definitely one visit. I've already told you, if you have not seen a doctor before, just go have a visit. I've told you the screening, one scan, pap smear, and a mammogram. If everything is fine, then that should be fine. Without seeing a doctor, I told you the ovarian cancer, they present only the advanced stage. By the time we diagnose, we cannot do much.
Okay.
So probably after 50, have a checkup. And if there is a strong family history like cancer, then better you have to have a proper screening.
Okay. There's one more question, a few more questions down here. This is Shobha Raghavan who writes, good evening, doctor. Is cancer hereditary? My mother is a cancer survivor, breast cancer. I am 57.
It's not something called a hereditary. There is an entity called this BRCA gene, BRCA gene. So when there is this BRCA gene mutation, they are at risk of developing breast cancer, colon cancer, and ovarian malignancy. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to go with a screening. Probably you have to go for an annual screening if nothing is there. There can be this BRCA gene mutation. So you are at high risk when compared to normal population. So definitely you have to undergo those screenings, which I've already mentioned.
Okay, there's another question from Hasina Bharata. If we are going through menopause and have an autoimmune is suggested to get vaccinated, if yes, which vaccine is the best for vitiligo patients?
I didn't get the vaccine. What vaccine? I'm not sure. Autoimmune? I didn't get the question actually.
Okay, I'll read out the question once again for you. If we are going through menopause and have autoimmune, is it suggested to get vaccinated? If yes, which vaccine is the best for VITILI?
No, the vitiligo patient is probably for what vaccine you want. There are so many vaccines. What you're talking about, I'm not sure. It's a vitiligo is a condition, and maybe it is related to autoimmune. She must be having some autoimmune problem. What vaccine they want to know? I'm not sure about it.
Vaccine. It's a
COVID vaccine. You can take. There is no restriction for that. Probably you can take the center where they have facilities, probably a tertiary care center. That's all. COVID vaccine, nothing related to that. Even we administer this COVID vaccine even during pregnancy, during the breastfeeding also. So you can take this vaccine. There's no contraindication until and unless you are allergic or having hypersensitivity reaction to the vaccine.
Okay, these days we commonly hear about PCOD, PCOS. It is so confusing to me. Can you explain in brief how to understand this? I am worried if I will have any problem in future.
Yeah, I've already told you this. The PCO or the PCOD is not only by ultrasound. You have irregular periods. You have ultrasound picture suggestive of polycystic ovaries, and the features probably suggestive of the excessive androgen levels. So that is something what we...
We are not able to hear you, doctor. Not able to hear you.
Hello?
Not able to hear you.
Now?
Now, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, probably. Now we are able to hear me?
Yes, loud
Okay.
and clear, loud and clear. So,
Okay. So, can you just repeat the question? I just lost the question.
yeah, it was about these days we commonly hear about the PCOD and the PCOS. It's so confusing to me. Can you please explain in brief how to understand this? I'm worried if I will have any problem in the future. I think you.
I've already answered this question. Actually, I said the PCO is nothing but there is a hormonal imbalance with those three features. Like there can be ultrasound picture, the menstrual problem, and the androgen levels being high. So
Yeah.
the main problem pertaining to your age group, the symptoms and the problems can arise. If you have crossed 35 years, then probably you should be alerted because you are at risk of developing the long-term problems of diabetes, hypertension, and increase the lipid levels, hypercholesterolemia. All these problems can happen. And the long run, if you have not been treated previously, as I said, they are at risk of developing uterine cancer. So these are some of the things which they have to keep in mind.
Okay, good, great. So now there's a question related to your field, which you are popular in, which you specialize in. So this is, Doctor, you are an IVF specialist. Kindly guide me through this hormone replacement therapy. Does it cause infertility? What are the causes of high or low hormones in the females?
See, hormone replacement therapy, as the name suggests, it is you're giving the hormones, you're replacing it.
Yeah.
This can happen in the reproductive age group when they have already attained premature menopause.
Okay.
So that is the only place where we give hormone replacement therapy in the reproductive age group. When I say hormone replacement therapy, you are replacing it in the menopausal age group.
Okay.
So there should not be any confusion with that.
Mm-hmm.
Say, and the next part of the question is the low hormones and the higher levels. So yeah, if the brain, the input from the brain is not adequate, so there is decrease in the levels of the hormones. So the output from the ovaries is also less. So that we call it as hypogonadotropic hypogonadism. So in those cases, there is no hormones. So we need to supplement them. Then only they can become pregnant.
Okay.
There's another entity where the hormones are there in the circulation, but the ovary is not responding. It is resistant. So they are the ones who cannot conceive. They have to go for a donor egg.
Okay.
So that is what you mean by the increase in the hormones or the extremes of hormones. And in the reproductive age group, until and unless they are on some medications to suppress the hormone levels in the system, you don't require hormone replacement therapy. It is usually, the term is used for menopausal women.
Okay, good. So there's one more question which she has put an emoji down there. Do men face this issue as badly as women?
Yes, men also have this problem, but they don't come more frequently. And now our branch is well established, reproductive medicine and surgery. We deal with the males also for infertility. So they do have this problem. Maybe in the general population, they wouldn't have seen, but we are seeing equally both males and females having this problem.
Okay, good. Thank you, doctor. I'm a 35-year-old IT professional. I and my husband consulted a gynecologist for infertility. She did a few blood tests and scan and told that the number of eggs are less. She suggested me to go for IVF. I don't have any idea about this. Can you please guide me? I would say that she should visit you.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe it depends on the place where she is. What her doctor has told is perfectly correct. She's already reached 35. One thing which our Indian population should remember is what is 35 for Western population. The same thing is seen at the age of 32. Okay, the number of eggs, they decrease rapidly in a woman. So the number of eggs in the ovary is already decided at the time of birth. It cannot be increased by any medicine. That has to be kept in the mind in all these IT professionals, because they think after 35, I'll settle my life, then I have a bungalow and a car, and then I'll come for pregnancy. So that time they have lost all their eggs. So probably that is a stage where she's also at 35, definitely when her eggs are less. After 35, it comes down drastically. So if she waits for another couple of years, even those eggs will not be there and she may have to go for a donor egg. So what her doctor has advised is 100% correct. she has to go for an IVF program, and they have to be investigated. And many of them, they have a false sense of think that what will happen to the baby after IVF. It is just like any other normal pregnancy after they conceive. So they need not worry about it. And once this is the right time, she has been advised, so she should go ahead with an IVF program. And what has to be done, I've already shown in the presentation what is being done. So there is nothing harm, because many of the clinicians now, they give them proper counseling, what is being done. So they need not get fear.
If my friend is happening to be around Chennai, you can always visit Dr. Radha. She's always there for free.
Sure.
She's always there for guidance, right? Okay, doctor, and with this egg thing, I just have a question in mind. Like, we do have the concept of freezing the eggs, so common amongst the youngsters these days. What's your opinion on that? I mean, this is my personal question.
Yeah, now it's very common, previously the Western scenario, but now it is becoming rampant in India. So many of them, they think that they have to settle in their life, their profession is important. So what they do is they go for what is called social egg freezing. So if they are not married, they don't have a male partner, so they have to go for an egg freezing. So they go for an IVF program. I showed you how the eggs are retrieved, and the same eggs are being frozen. So that is called social freezing. And after they get the male partner, or once they settle in life, then they go for IVF program. Okay. So suppose they are already married and they have a male partner, they can go for embryo freezing. Instead of egg freezing, embryo freezing gives better results. So many of them, they go for embryo freezing. If they don't have a male partner, they go for a social egg freezing. But one thing they should remember, even though they have eggs which has been frozen, their system is also aging. They are at risk of developing all the comorbids like diabetes, hypertension, all those problems. And at the age of 40, being pregnant is not something which can be equated to pregnancy at the age of 20s or 30s. So that they should keep in mind. Maybe they have their own gametes, but they should think they have to balance in their life what is important.
Okay. So another question related to this egg only and the fertility program. When should people start considering fertility treatments?
See, I had put in one of the slide, because many of them, when they come to us, they say, doctor, I didn't know when I should have started treatment. Yeah. Suppose she is less than 35 years. She has tried for 1 year. Still she has not become pregnant. She should go for evaluation. Evaluation is different and treatment is different. We need to find out, is there any problem? So, and if she has if she's more than 35 and she's married for 6 months, she has not conceived, she should go and meet. And if she's 40, she should go immediately, because there is no time. Then the next thing, now she has irregular periods, or she has had a surgery previously where one ovary was removed, or she had a cyst in the ovary and they have removed, or she has had some other surgeries. So the result, the eggs in the ovary, it comes down, so they have to go. And if she has had any treatment like chemotherapy or radiotherapy, that can also affect the egg. So they have to go for that. And if they have some problem, like when they have already tried, there is some problem in the male partner. Even though she is young, then definitely they have to go. Okay. They cannot wait.
Okay. Okay. So there's another question along with this, fertility, infertility, and there's one more question which has come up is birth control pill a good option for contraceptive for a 45-year-old who has regular periods?
See, when I'm talking about birth control, that is a contraception, is entirely different from infertility. Now, I presume that you're 45 and you're using it only for birth control.
Yeah.
If you are 45, probably I will not recommend an oral contraceptive pill at the age of 45, because they are at risk of developing venous thromboembolisms.
Yeah. Please repeat that, doctor.
So they have
that risk of
they have risk of venous thromboembolism. They have the risk of thrombosis. Okay. All those complications, or the stroke and all that can happen. So at the age of 45, there are other better options like a copper-T, intrauterine devices, or a progesterone-containing device.
Okay.
Suppose you're given a oral contraceptive pill for some other reason, say you have excessive bleeding during periods, for that they would have given.
Okay.
So it is an individual's priority or based on for what purpose you're using. At the age of 45, only for contraception, I don't recommend a contraceptive pill. There are various other methods.
Okay. So we just have 2 questions left to take. We have some on the chat box. So one is from Lakshmi. Good evening, doctor. I'm 45 years old. Is there any precautionary measures that can reduce premenopause symptoms? What supplements can be taken in general?
As I've already told you, if you are in the premenopausal stage, those symptoms, what can happen, I've told. So the very important thing in this time is to balance it. It's very important. You need a very good family support to balance it.
Okay.
So your diet has to be very clearly, I've mentioned about it, your diet has to be taken care of. Some form of exercise is a must. You're walking, aerobic and anaerobic exercises, which keeps you fit. And supplements I've told is about the calcium. That is very important. So, and you have to maintain your adequate weight. You should not be obese because you can develop the other problems later.
There's one question from Sahana Sridhar, which says, hello, doctor, talking about the prime time of a woman. What is your opinion on freezing the eggs? I think you have discussed about this freezing of the eggs.
One more thing which I want to add about freezing of the eggs is many of them, they come to us, they have been diagnosed with malignancy. They have not, either they are unmarried or they have not finished their family. So they don't have much time. So they are planned for chemotherapy or radiotherapy. So in those cases, we freeze the eggs. And after they finish the treatment, they can go for an ART program.
Okay. So there is a few more questions which is left here. And it is about the perimenopause and menopause category. Is hormone replacement therapy good? Will you recommend it?
See, this is not a drug to be given over the counter. It is to be given on. Hello? Hello? Hello, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So it has to be given in only certain indicated patients, like when they have vasomotor symptoms, or they are at increased risk of developing osteoporosis and fracture, or they have some genitourinary symptoms, which I said, like they can have dryness in the vagina, or they can have some leak of the urine. These are some conditions where we recommend hormone replacement therapy. Otherwise, prophylactically, to prevent some complication, we should not give that because we have to weigh the risks and the benefits.
Okay. So the last question for the day would be like, can you please suggest any screening test to be done around the menopausal time? I think we had a lovely PowerPoint presentation, which also said that. So people can even go back to that and listen to you again. But in brief, if you could just suggest, Dr. Radha, that the brief screening test to be done around the menopausal time. What are the tests you would like to say?
See, I have already said one is pap smear.
Yeah.
So pap smear has to be done. At least 3 pap smears. If they are negative, then your doctor can individualize based on your history and the family history. So pap smear is a must. And you have crossed 40, definitely you need to have one mammogram. And around the time of menopause, one transvaginal ultrasound.
Okay.
And if there is a history of repeated fractures or risk of osteoporosis, then probably a DEXA scan.
Okay. So I think that's, there's one more question which has come up with from Ganesh Prasad. In previous generation, women used to have multiparity. What is the implication in women's health in today, where women go for single child?
See, previously the generation is different, their lifestyle was different. And the present day women does multiple jobs.
Yeah.
And with a lot of stress and in the day-to-day practice, they are at risk of developing various comorbidities. Like diabetes, hypertension, various cardiovascular diseases. Probably the previous generation people had a very balanced diet, stress-free life, so they could have many children, which is not so in the present generation.
Right. I agree with you totally. I understand totally. About okay. Any more questions from the chat box? Thank you, viewers, for watching the program. If you have any question, you can unmute yourself and ask me a question, or else. Yeah, their doctor is sharing. Dr. Radha, what are you sharing? Okay, what are you sharing, Anna? Okay. So if there is any question, we would like to see it on the chat box. And if not, then I would like to thank Dr. Radha. And I would like to ask you any closing remark, Doc, on women's health. And if the more question comes in, probably we'll have one more session with you on fertility and,
Sure.
this thing. But any closing remark, Dr. Radha, from your side?
Yes, women's health, as I said, it's very important. Any symptom, any suspicion, better to have an opinion from a gynecologist or a clinician. Very, very important. Present day, even if there is a small lump in the breast, better see a doctor. So don't ignore any symptoms. Don't take it for granted. Don't self-medicate seeing Google and over-the-counter medications. Visit a doctor, and your lifestyle is very important. Take care of your health, that is the diet, exercise, and a good day-to-day activities that will help you in the long run. And of course, the screening should not be forgotten. That should not be the last choice. It should be kept in the mind that we have reached 40, we should undergo these screening methods.
Thank you. I would like to thank Dr. Radha on behalf of everybody who is watching this show for taking out your precious time and clarifying the doubts which my friends have shared, which has come up on the chat box. I think genuinely, we are very, very thankful for you to have, to be in Manthan with Saraswati. And we are very proud. Want to thank my husband, Mr. Suresh, who helped me with the technical support. So thank you so much. And namaste. And this is Saraswati Suresh signing off for Manthan with Saraswati. See you in the next episode with the.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. It was a nice sharing the whatever I could advise and whatever I could solve the doubts of the participants. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Radha, for giving your precious time once again. And thank you all my friends for watching, and keep watching Manthan with Saraswati for more knowledge and more information. Thank you. Namaste.